Hey guys, so for those of you who don't know me, my name's Sarah. I'm at my art studio right now in Hagerstown, Maryland, called Painting with a Purpose, under my trade name / DBA, in the Historic Arts and Entertainment District of Hagerstown in Maryland. That being said, this is not promotional content, just an introductory. For those of you who do know me, welcome. I'm mostly just making, I wanted to start making videos to kind of like touch on topics that I feel like a lot of people in today's fast-paced social media world, the internet that is, don't really touch on too much, but things that I feel at least are deeply important to me, that I feel like deserve more kind of like even just like a nod at, That being said, here's just some of my musings lately. And maybe some of you need to hear this. Maybe most people won't care. That's not going to stop me from yapping. So, that being said, welcome. So, first off, I'll start off by saying that, I'm vegan. And that does matter. It ties into a point here in a second. Don't mind me. As a vegan, one of the things that sparked me to start my journey into living a plant-based diet and lifestyle, which is all it means. It's all it means. When people say vegan and people misconstrue that, and I really hate how much it's been misconstrued. People always think like, oh, you just don't eat meat. It's actually just the rejection of the commodification of animals in general. And the fact that we are at an age in time where we don't need to rely on them for sustenance, for clothes, really anything, except, we owe it to them actually at this point, from the needless suffering we've put them through for decades, to just leave them alone if we're not helping them. In terms of conservation, preservation of the habitats we're destroying actively every day, through means which most people turn a blind eye to. And that said, just mostly being mindful. I don't think enough people, especially with social media in today's age, we're in this fast-paced, kind of like abhorrent, like apathetic, misanthropic, if you will, kind of like mindset. And so I think that lends itself to this society that it just is predicated upon turning a blind eye to things. Even choices we make in our daily life that are harmful, that we may not lend as much like credence to in that aspect where we should. So that said, I am so tired of driving and seeing roadkill. Animals that have been, and I hate the word roadkill because it reduces the actual animal to nothing but like a body on the pavement, you know what I mean? Like an afterthought, instead of seeing it for the living, breathing being that its life was taken away from a reckless motorist. And I know accidents happen, but that's not what I'm talking about. A lot of accidents can be prevented by being mindful of your surroundings, which again goes back to the whole, we're in this kind of spectacle of society, not to quote Guy Debord, but like, we are in this society that is a spectacle, and I think that most people are not aware of their immediate surroundings as much as they should be. We're always in this mindset of I need to get to point A to point B, where I need to be as busier than the next guy, but that's not true. We're all going to the same place at the end. So it's like, if people would just slow down. I've actually avoided more would-be roadkill incidences just by slowing down, being mindful of my environment, my surroundings, not putting my destination or the timing of what time it is and where I'm going above the lives of those around me. That goes for humans and animals. If you wouldn't not break for a human being, then why would you not break for an animal? And I think, again, it lends itself to this tired, sick, apathetic, kind of abhorrent, like, travesty of a mindset that we've allowed ourselves to really sink into, is what it is. That we think that our lives are more important than those around, the lives of those around us, including animals. And that's just not true. A lot of people were taught that animals are food, we're taught from young children to, like at a young age, to, you know, care about animals, at least most of us, I believe, in Western culture, which is very hypocritical actually, because then, you know, you grow up and like you're taught to, you know, respect nature, love animals, you know, be kind to your pets and whatnot, if you're a decent person. But then we go on and we say, okay, we're going to commodify animals to be food. But that animal is also a somebody. So, you know, it's a living, breathing creature. And I know people will say, oh, well, God gave us animals. But like, he said, have dominion over them, as in good stewardship. And that's a lot different than domination and tying them up against their will, putting them in these filthy slaughterhouses, these warehouses with concrete floors. It's not humane. No slaughter is humane for an animal that wants to live, and every animal wants to live. So just be mindful of that. And that goes for wild animals too. So again, goes back to the whole be mindful of what goes on your plate, who goes on your plate, how fast you're going. If there's an animal that jumps out and you can't stop it, I understand that. But the fact that we even drive, it's a convenience, don't get me wrong. And I drive myself, but like it's unnatural. We've had an active hand in undoing our relationship with nature. And I think that that needs to stop. I think that desperately needs to, if anything, at least come to a pause before we make any more technological advancements, any more infrastructure advancements. And I'm not saying we should all stop driving. I'm just saying that like our taxpayer dollars are going to road improvements. I would love to see some natural bridges being built for animals to safely cross over on top of roads like they do in Germany. Like I believe that Sweden also has that implemented in some parts. So that's just something to think about. And I'm not saying this video is going to change the world. I doubt anyone's really even going to watch it. But if you are watching still, thank you. And again, I'm not wearing makeup. I have nothing to sell. I'm just talking about my personal philosophy. And again, veganism is a moral philosophy. The diet is part and parcel with the philosophy. And so, no, it doesn't make you pretentious. And I know that we get a bad rap because people are like, oh, you're the crazy PETA people. Well, like, not all of us. And PETA, I have my own problems with them too. Because they've been involved in some scandals. But aside from that, it's just about, you know, then people want to say, oh, well, animals eat animals. We're animals, so why shouldn't we be able to eat? Well, the stark difference is wild animals would die if they didn't eat. And also their prey has a 50-50 chance of escaping. Whereas what we do to them is completely unnatural. Just crowding them together again in droves. We breed them for commodification, and that's not fair either, and that's not natural. That's nothing like a natural food web at all. And it's not a food chain, it's a food web, by the way. Because some parts of that food web have nothing to do with human beings at all, like a lion eating a zebra. We have no place in that. So how can we be at the top of something of which doesn't really have a true hierarchy? So just some food for thought, no pun intended. Also, a lot less agricultural problems would come from having a safer, veganic kind of, if you will, methodology of farming, because we all know that the animals that we as a collective humanity is told is okay to eat are mostly plant eaters. So why not skip the middleman, aka the slaughtered, tortured animal that died in fear? By the way, you're eating that fear and pain that that animal felt in its last moments. So you're taking in that energy transfer as well. Why don't you just skip the middleman and then just go plant-based? Because that would probably be a lot less violent and a lot more peaceful. And I think that we all need that in today's world especially. So slow down, be mindful, be aware of what's on your plate and not who's on your plate, because that's the kind of world that we should strive to be in.